Okay, we are officially live. This is Small Business Saturday podcast, and I have the most distinguished guests across the country. And we are going to be talking about a very popular documentary that's on Netflix right now. It's called Pepsi. Where is my jet? And I just want to say happy Small Business Saturday to everybody. Today is the national day that everybody recognizes Small Business Saturday. And just so happily, we're Small Business Saturday podcast. We are small business lawyers. And yeah, today is a day where you're supposed to go out and support a small business. And so we want to do something special today. Today, we're going to actually, I'm going to be giving out a free trademark service, legal service for one listener who listens in, who's a small business. It's going to be given out at the end. So you got to make sure that you're here to the end to be able to claim that. But we're going to have a good time. We're going to discuss the Netflix documentary, and we're going to go from there. But I'm going to have my distinguished guests introduce themselves, what they do, and then we'll get started from there. So let's start with Attorney Bonza.
Good morning, America. Good morning, everybody. This is Tony Bonza, broadcasting here from the greater Chicago area. I am a boutique type of law firm where I do a couple things. So I've been in business for minutes. From the moment we started to this point, we've settled record-proven cases, PI, hundreds of thousands. So I do what I do. I do what I do, and at the top of what I do is advocacy. Advocacy, what I do. Simply advocacy, nothing else but advocacy. And that's what I do. Good morning, and thank you for coming.
All right, thank you, Attorney Bonza. Attorney Whitley, you want to do a brief introduction of who you are?
Sure. My name is Attorney Jacoby Whitley. I'm licensed in the District of Columbia. I practice like a small boutique general practice. I run a small boutique general practice essentially, but we do specialize in real estate law, trust in the states. We also do, small business work, which encompasses trademarks, and we also handle some immigration matters as well.
Okay, sounds great. Great. And if you don't know me, I'm Attorney Justin Camper. I'm located in Indiana, and so I'm just really glad that to be here. I'm a small business attorney located in Northwest Indiana. So for all the guests, everybody who's listening, if you are a small business, I want you to shout out your small business. I want you to shout out what you do, and I want you to shout out, why you would like to get the free trademark service. Okay, you still have to pay for your own filing fees, but we're going to offer one free trademark service for one of the listeners. And so, whoever you are, if you're a small business, I'm gonna keep saying this throughout the show because I know people are gonna come in and out. If you're a small business owner, your business in the comments, shout it out, what you do, put your website in there so we can see that you're legit if you have a website, and shout out why you want this free trademark service. And we're going to vote at the end, and we're going to have someone be able to get that free trademark service. So I want to shout out some of our guests. We got Jalaska Bella Sexy TV. I'm sorry, I'm probably saying that wrong. Saying hello. Thanks for the shout out. We got Hans Peter and Kanza. He says, "Good morning. I know you miss me, Attorney Bonza. Please say it out loud. Let everyone know you miss me." Okay, I guess you got a fan there, Attorney Bonza.
I miss you too, Hans. I like the outfit actually on your profile.
Okay, yeah, authentic Ghanaian outfit. That's beautiful. Yeah, so all right, so we're gonna go ahead and talk about it. I'm gonna give a brief introduction as to what this documentary was all about, why it's important. I think this is one of the most important foundational document for business owners. I think it's if you have the time, I think if you're a business owner, you should watch it. It's a lot of golden nuggets that you can learn from watching this documentary. And so I really hope that you guys can watch it if you haven't watched it. But I'm going to give a brief synopsis of what happened. So Pepsi and Coca-Cola are the top two brands when it comes to soda or pop, whatever you call it, wherever you're from. So they're the top two brands. Pepsi was trying to basically topple Coca-Cola. It was just I think they call it the Coke Wars, right? Where they were going back and forth, really trying to make sure that they're on top of things. So when they had this, they was having this competition. Pepsi specialized in advertisement. They had this great advertisement company that knew how to target the youth, the adolescents, and to get people, excited about Coke, about Pepsi. And so what happened was they came up with this point system. Basically, when you buy Pepsi, there'll be a certain amount of points on that can. You would save it up, you get a certain amount of points, and you'll be able to get Pepsi merchandise, which is like a Pepsi shirt, Pepsi, hoodie, or Pepsi whatever. They have a certain amount of points. So one day Pepsi decided to run this commercial in regards to the points, and they were running the commercial, trying to advertise this new point system for people to watch. I mean, for people to participate in. And at the end of the commercial, there was at the end of the commercial, there was a advertisement for a Harrier jet, which is like a military style jet. And there was a advertisement for the military style jet, and it said that if you get, I believe it was 7 million points. I believe if you get 7 million points, you'll be able to get the Harrier jet. Okay, and there was actually a guy named John Leonard who took on that challenge and actually did get 7 million points. And so then the question became, was that an official offer from Pepsi that if there's someone actually get 7 million points that they were going to give them a Harrier jet, or was that just something that Pepsi was doing just for show? So I'm going to allow, and before you guys get into the legal debate on this, I want to allow you guys just to give your general comments and thoughts on it. And I even want the public, I want you guys to chime in whether you thought that Pepsi's commercial was legitimate, or whether you think it was illegitimate, or you think it was just a joke. But I want you, before you get to legal argument, I want you guys I know you guys both saw the documentary. I want you to just give me your general thoughts on the documentary. I'm actually going to try to find the actual commercial so I can pay it for the public, and then we can all give our thoughts on it. So anybody can go.
I believe the commercial was um, good enough to make a reasonable person believe that the whatever was being offered uh, in commercial was going to be honored. And throughout, I took a time to watch the Netflix documentary. I At some point I realized that Pepsi also realized that there was a mistake in it. There was a glitch in it. So they began um, to kind of add some commentary below the commercial saying "just kidding," things like that, just so they know that they did some kind of mistakes in the process. So I believe that it was a bluff on their end. They didn't think it through. But who else will think that as they were arguing? Um, who else will think that this is something that we can offer that is not actually legal to be operated, by just anybody who doesn't know how to pilot the an airplane and stuff like that. So I believe that it was legit, but you know, you get a lot of money, you spend justice in a certain way, you can afford a lot of things, and then you poke loopholes and things like that, and then you destroy the opponent. So, yeah.
So I actually thanks for that, Attorney Bonza. And I actually found the commercial. Do you guys want Jacoby, before you give your response? Do you want to have me play the commercial first, or do you want to give your response before I play the commercial?
You can play the commercial. I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna play the commercial just in case someone hasn't seen it, and I want you guys to give me your thoughts on whether or not you think this was a legit offer from Pepsi. So. Okay. All right. We are ready. Can you guys see my screen? You guys can see it, right? Okay. Are we going to go ahead and play it? Are you guys able to hear it? Okay.
Introducing the new Pepsi Stuffed Catalog. Now, the more Pepsi you drink, the more great stuff you're going to get.
Sure beats the bus.
Okay. So. Okay, so yeah, now we played the commercial. I want to know what's your thoughts, Attorney Willie, and I see Candace Kemper says hello. Good morning. Thank you, Candace, for tuning in. So, Attorney Willie, what's your thought? Do you think that was a legitimate offer?
Yeah, actually, I do. I am of that opinion. So I'm working two pots right now, man. I got small business on the baby. I'm working TikTok right now. But anyway,
Gotcha.
yes,
No problem.
to answer your question, in my opinion, after watching the doc, do I think that the commercial, especially the Harrier jet, was it a valid offer? And that's what the whole deal is about. I think so. And in the documentary, they bring this out, and I subscribe to this theory. Again, it's my opinion. I can't speak on what they did or didn't do, but there is that theory that the disclaimer that my uncle mentioned, the just kidding, they added it later. So initially, there is the opinion that there's multiple factors that led to the final product, but the disclaimer was not on that scene in that shot, and that was intentionally what we believe was intentionally let off to attract more young people to try and get the Harrier jet. Now, thinking that yes, I also think that they thought that was impossible and no one would actually try to do it. But I do think they left the disclaimer off to psychologically play with kids and play on that childish wonder in that children believe are more gullible and will try things and try to lure those kids to, I need Pepsi, Mom. I need Pepsi. I need Pepsi. I need Pepsi. Pepsi would never admit that. We can't prove that. But that was a theory set forth in the documentary, and I think that theory is. I agree with that theory. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
So I do think it was an offer. In my opinion, and I support that theory that I just laid out.
Okay. Well, a federal judge disagree with you, Attorney Whitley.
Probably won't be the first time. Probably won't be.
It depends. It depends on the time the case is being tried, and depending on whether the party are still interested in moving forward with the case. It is a lot of things that we can talk about here. And then I want to go back to what my colleague mentioned here um, to answer your question. Yes, it was a legit offer. Yes, there was a contract in here, right? And this is one of the type of contract that can be accepted by performance. It was a unilateral offer, right? And when you begin performance, at some point you cannot be stopped. And this guy began performance and offered, and there was three elements that we look for here: offer, consideration, and acceptance. All that were in this case. So I don't know how to spend it in the federal court. However, the lay 101 contract basics say that there was an offer, consideration, and acceptance. So Pepsi didn't perform.
Okay. All right. And so yeah, I want to know from your audience, from the audience, I want to know, what do you think? Do you think this was a legitimate offer on a commercial? This is an offer to be in a quote unquote legally binding contract, or what do you think it was just a joke and then people should have took it as a joke? So Hans Peter and Kanza said it sounds like bait and switch to me. I think a lot of people would agree with you on that. So now, here's some things taken into consideration. Okay, so um, they said that a Harrier jet back then was valued at $32 million. 7 million points in Pepsi was way less than 32 million. They also said that the Harrier jet was a military style jet, so there's no way that they could have demilitarized a military jet and gave it to the public. So, does that change the situation for you, Attorney Bonza, Attorney Whitley, that what they were offering for, what they were basically, the offer was, hey, you buy, 7 million, points worth of Pepsi, and you'll get this $32 million jet, and on top of that, it's going to be a military style jet that the average person doesn't have. What do you think? Does that
Uh,
change anything for you?
I still believe that you indicated 2 points, two things: the legality of Harrier jet back then, but also you compare the value of the jet versus the $7 million the gentleman had to, or John had to bring in to show that he accepted, and that there you hinting on what we call consideration. Now, uh, an offer is a manifestation of an intent to enter into a contract. You ask yourself whether a reasonable person will consider this to be an offer, right? So now there's a distinction there uh, when it comes to the amount. If I say, give me, I'll buy your 2022 Tesla for 150, and you looking at me, I'm an elderly guy, and I look like I'm out of it, and you take the 150 from me, and 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 then I give you my Tesla, and then later on I sue you saying no, that was not conscionable. There's a chance that I will win, because under this time, uh, in today's day and age, 150 a Tesla is not worth $150. And then looking at my age, the way I am, the court or the jury is likely to side with me. Something was wrong with it. This is not conscionable. Now, $7 million may be less than $32 million. However, the work required in achieving the 7 million point, or 7 million, it was 7 million points, 7 million points, the work required, and he did the math. He was going to spend a lot of money, but he ended up spending $700,000. This is a kid that has no job, collecting money here and there, finding friends to support him. That alone, before a jury, required him to do a lot, which means that you're dealing with a business savvy that's been in the business for a long time. They should have thought this through to see whether if this consideration is less compared to the $32 million value of the jet. Now, suppose that they say yes or they say no. The next thing you ask is the you mentioned is the legality of it. Now we delve into the ambiguity of an offer of a contract, or the mistake in the offer or in a contract. Sometime in the laws of contract, they say that when ambiguity may excuse, you know, a contract. However, when one party to the case or to the contract knows of the mistake or the ambiguity, that party shall not be excused from that. So here we're talking about Pepsi saying, well, even if we offered, but who in the righteous mind will know that it's okay to just give this plan away to a kid and stuff like that. This was obviously illegal. We could not offer that. They made that. Now, but that's not an excuse. I don't know how to span this in the federal court. But however, that excuse alone, I don't believe could stand in to support their case.
Okay. Attorney Willie, does that change anything for you, knowing those facts?
Yeah, so what Mambo hit on, I agree with, are 2 points to consider in the enforcement. Well, when you're trying to analyze the enforceability of a contract. One was the consideration enough, and that's the dollar for dollar value. Was 7 million equal to the market value of the Harrier jet? No, but my umble brings up Attorney Bonza brings up some points regarding the work that went into that. And I think that bleeds over into a defense of detrimental reliance, of saying, look, even though the contract or the offer may not have been perfect, I did X, Y, and Z and set forth this amount of time, this amount of resources. I got this many people involved, which shows that I genuinely believed and accepted the offer. Since I did all these steps, I detrimentally relied on it. Therefore, that person should still deliver whatever was promised. So I understand that point. And also it fleshes out the legality. And this was one of Pepsi's major defenses, is the fact that they actually got in touch with somebody from the Pentagon that gave a report that says that the contract wouldn't be enforceable because a civilian can't purchase a Harrier jet, because at the time they were not decommissioned. So a civilian couldn't get in touch with that top secret technology or get their hands on that top secret technology and be able to purchase that as a civilian. So the contract wouldn't be able to be performed in that way too. So when you bring up adequate consideration, when you bring up legality, those were some of the defenses that Pepsi, in fact, did set forth.
Okay. So, because I think that, I want to break this down for the public, because I want to make sure that, business owners are taking something from this. But before that, I want to get to a comment. Hans Peter said then they could have used a Gulfstream jet. I mean, it could have, but that's not what the offer was. So let's break this down for the public, right? So any contract has to have 3 elements: offer, acceptance, consideration, right? It has to be an offer from one party, the other party has to accept it, and then there has to be some sort of consideration to show that this is a true, legit offer. Someone has to perform something in order for the contract to be enforced. But there's always exceptions to that rule, right? And so one of the exceptions is, well, if it's an illegal contract, meaning that you can't get into a contract for something that's illegal and then try to force someone to sell it. So let's say, there was 2 drug dealers, right? And you're like, hey, I'm going to buy you, I'm going to buy, a certain amount of cocaine for, X amount. And then the person says, no, I'm not going to do it anymore. That person can't go to court and say, well, hey, he's supposed to, we had an offer. I gave him money for it. And it should have been you should have forced him to do this contract. They're going to say no, because what selling cocaine is illegal, right? So that blows the whole contract. So that was part of Pepsi's argument, which is that having a Harrier jet is illegal. So even if this was a legitimate offer and acceptance, uh, you just because you there's the offer and acceptance, it still has to be a legal contract, right? Another thing is that uh, Mayumbo hit it on, which is another exception to the general rule, which is if a contract is what the in legal words called unconscionable, meaning that no reasonable person will get into this contract, right? So if I have a $50,000, $50,000 man, or I say $50 million house, okay, and I'm talking with you, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll sell it to you for $1, right? You can't come back and be like, oh yeah, it's $1, right? Because it's like no reasonable person would have gotten to that contract. Now, you don't want to rely on that, right? You want to have an attorney look over your contracts because courts don't like to use unconscionability. But that is a good point, right? That they could have brought up, which is a Harrier jet is worth $32 million, right? There's no way that you could have reasonably thought that I was going to give you a Harrier jet that's worth $32 million for $7 million. So that's their part of the argument. Here's the other part of the argument I want to take into consideration: the mind of the Pepsi. Okay, now in order to have a legally binding contract, you have to have mutual consent, right? And so, couldn't Pepsi have made the argument that, listen, you may have thought I was being serious, but I wasn't, right? In my mind, in my intentions, it was to be a joke. So how you can't try to enforce me into something that I never had the intention of enforcing. So what do you guys say to that if Pepsi says, hey, listen, in my mind and in my thoughts, this wasn't meant to be legit, right? And you got to have mutual consent in order to enforce the contract. So what do you guys say to that?
I'll say that would have been a very weak argument. And if I was an attorney there, I wouldn't even fix my mouth to say something like that, because there are ways to accept common law contract, right? We indicated this in the beginning. We have a bilateral contract and a unilateral contract. In what you're saying, it would have been, hey, my mind X, Y, and Z, because we are bilateral contract that requires your action and my action all together. But here, the common law has established or called these type of offers or contract as unilateral contract, right? And then you accept this by performance, right? And even if performance is 99% complete, it's not performance. This guy came back a fully complete performance. So that, to answer that question, that would not have been a good argument. I don't know, Attorney Jacoby, what do you think?
I agree that. Well, I just want to say I agree with you. I don't agree with that reasoning. However, from my understanding, that is what the judge pretty much based her reasoning on. That an objective person could not reasonably conclude that a television commercial was an actual offer for a military jet of which consumers, meaning the general public, could accept. So the judge went that route, and basically, sometimes judges, and I'm not here to bash judges, if any judges watching. However, in my experience, judges split the baby a lot, right? They go middle of the road, right? They explain a compromise as being something that no party receives exactly what they wanted. However, both parties receive something or something that both parties could live with. So they often make compromises that are pretty much middle of the road. But I think with the pressures, because this was a summary judgment too. So also this decision wasn't made at a full board trial. This decision was made on the paperwork. It was a summary judgment. So there was briefings filed, and the judge made the decision on the briefings. Now, if this had gone to trial, to my humble's point, and to Mr. Leonard's point and his team, is that a jury of his peers would have likely found that he accepted the offer through performance, as my humble has articulated. But where the legal wrangling is, and where you start to separate yourself from just the general public perspective, public perception, is the fact that there was a summary judgment. So this wasn't at a trial. The judge considered these motions in her chambers. It was also only limited to what was on the record at the time. And in the documentary, there were no depositions. So there were also no depositions on the record. So basically, they had the Pepsi's complaint and Leonard's counter complaint, and essentially based her summary judgment on that. And mutual assent is what I also, in my experience, believe judges look, one of the first things judges look for, the meeting of the minds in determining the enforceability of the contract. Normally judges, they go down element by element. Much to that attorney's chagrin, you want to push it and say, look, judge, only element 3 matters. Let's get to element 3. But judges will start with element 1, and they will review every single thing on the record to make sure that everything is in compliance. I think that's what the judge did here. They started with mutual assent, Justin, Attorney Camper, as you stated, that, hey, that's a premier element of a contract. So we got to start there. And that's where she made the ruling, again, based off, but what could have been on the record, or at least in the public, was that general, a Pentagon official saying that a public citizen couldn't buy a jet anyway. So even though judges aren't supposed to consider that, judges are also human. So I think this error that Pepsi used to help make this seem that this was ridiculous, in their campaign of public opinion, swayed the judge. And unfortunately, the judge went the middle of the road and went conservative and said that, they couldn't believe that someone would reasonably find that to be an offer. But I agree with Mambo. You can accept the offer through performance. And I think that is clear that this person did do that. Mr. Leonard did accept this offer through performance. So I disagree with the judge, but the reasoning that you brought up is literally the reasoning that the judge relied on, unfortunately.
Okay, so I want to bring up another thought too. Okay, so we're gonna play lawyer here for the other side, but they end up hiring a lawyer. I forgot his name, a celebrity lawyer,
Michael Avenatti. Let's get to
it. Yeah, Michael Avenatti.
Man.
I guess we got a fan here. So Michael's strategy was to basically dig up as much dirt on Pepsi and basically use that to force them into a settlement or to give them the jet. Now,
objection. I think you're mischaracterizing facts.
Okay. All right, go ahead. I'll let you explain.
No. The only reason I want to jump in here because that's where Avenatti, because he's in jail right now.
Right,
for basically using these same tactics against Nike.
Right, that was my point.
Robbery.
Right.
But I think legally, he was just young and hungry now at this stage of his career.
Right.
He was by the book with this. Right. And I think he had a ethical strategy here.
Okay.
It just didn't play out.
Right.
But I don't think it reached the level of blackmail as people think it did, and it wasn't as nefarious as people think. But we can get into that later. But that's the backdrop. Drama. Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, so let me just explain to the public and then we can debate it. So, different lawyers have different strategies, okay? And Michael's strategy was, listen, I'm gonna find this dirt on Pepsi. And as he kept digging, he actually found that Pepsi had ran similar commercials in different countries. One of them being the Philippines, where a lot of people relied on it, and a lot of people actually
They died.
they died in protesting because Pepsi didn't come through on their offer that they did in these commercials and things like that. So so Michael's strategy was, hey, we're going to start, campaigning. We're going to start showing this to the public. I'm actually going to find, if I can find the ads that he was going to do, I'm going to post that and let you guys see it. But his strategy was to basically use this to force them into a settlement, or I should say maybe possibly force them into a settlement and possibly get them to perform on their contract. So I want you guys to say, I guess Jacoby kind of already did tell you his opinion on it, but I want you guys to kind of go into elaborate. Do you think that was a good strategy? Do you think that was ethical? Do you think that he could have went to jail for it? He's actually in jail right now for extortion. Well, he's in house arrest, but he's on house arrest right now for extortion. Do you think that could have rose to the level of, hey, that's extortion, or do you think that's just good lawyering? So I'll let you go, Jacob.
Yeah, hold on, my brother. Hold on. I thought about this. I peeped this in the documentary.
Right.
I was like, yo, because I started looking at him shady too, like this the shady lawyer, Stormy Daniels. But then I thought about the move, because that solos.
Right.
I move like that. I don't bribe people. No. You have to be aggressive because the major firms will try to play you. Right. So you got to stand your ground, and most of the time, good research will win out over their arrogance. Right. And I think Mr. Avenatti was just a student of that, because he made his career in oppositional research, because he was a great researcher. Right. So basically, I don't think he was trying to extort them, right? Yeah. What he did was he was able to find a campaign that Pepsi did in a foreign country, right? That basically was a bait and switch, as Hans Peter said, right? Basically, they told the people in Philippines. Now, mind you, the reason why they did this was Coke had like an 80% market share in Singapore, right? And Pepsi was looking to get into that market share. So they ran this sweepstakes that said if under your bottle top, you had like the numbers 349, you won $1 million. It was the equivalent of $1 million in that currency, but it was the US equivalent of $40,000. Okay. So what ended up happening is multiple people won. Like the number was under multiple caps. So multiple people had a claim to it, and then they all tried to collect. And Pepsi said, oh, it was just a glitch in the computer system. Nobody won. And this caused riots because the people were so impoverished that they looked at this as a way out. So they prioritized buying Pepsi over other common household, like over food, in the hopes of winning the sweepstakes. Okay, Pepsi said, "Look, we don't know, computer glitch. We can't pay you guys." They had a riot and people died. People lost their lives over this promotion gone wrong. So the legal move is, now that he discovered this, right? And this is what people, I think, they get it crossed with blackmail. He discovered this, but this wasn't something. I think this would be blackmail or extortion if this didn't relate. But this sweepstakes directly related to the current case. If Avenatti discovered something like the CEO of Pepsi paid a prostitute and tried to bring that forward, I think that would be blackmail. But what he was doing was presenting, he found character evidence And it can't be used to prove that, oh, because they did it then, they did it now. But it can be used to show lack of mistake, knowledge, a common pattern of business practices. And what he was going to do, now that he had this information, he was going to depose people at Pepsi. And those depositions were going to be under oath. And he was going to ask them questions about the situation. I believe it's Singapore. And basically, once that became public record, this snafu that killed people would become national news in America, would bring down the stocks because it would be bad news against the company, right? So it wouldn't be extortion or anything like that. It would just be used as character evidence and used in a deposition. But he never deposed them. No one from Pepsi ever got deposed, so their feet never got held to the fire, and this evidence never got put on the record. And I think all that gets lost in it, and it gets nuanced, man. It gets lumped up and conflated as, oh, he just found dirt and tried to blackmail them. No, I think he did great research that related, and he found character evidence that he planned to use and ask questions in deposition, and they shut it down. And I just think because he represented Stormy Daniels and got caught up in the scandal, probably using tactics like this, similar to this, but he just crossed the line. Like they say that in the documentary, like he's known for crossing the line.
Right.
And now it just, again, it gets all conflated that all his moves were unethical.
Right.
And I don't think necessarily this move was unethical. In fact, not unethical, and it would have played out. I think they would have won the case and they would have settled for at least $10 million because they already got the first offer at $1 million. So I think they would have got a second settlement at $10 million.
Right. Okay. All right. Attorney Bonza, your thoughts? Do you think that his strategy was unethical? We had a first one to get a comment. James Camper said credibility is so important. Yeah, thanks for that. So go ahead, Attorney Bonza.
I believe that every attorney has their own way of zealously representing their clients. Everyone has their own strategies. We have the rules of professional conduct to regulate us on how we want to go about this. I wouldn't really point fingers at Mike. He did what he could for his client, a small guy. If his strategy was used against another small guy, none of that would have happened. But when you're fighting against a giant, with a bunch of lawyers, all they have to do is sit down and just read one page and come up with a strategy, a million strategy from that one page they read, versus you having to go deposing here, researching there. There's a way that you can potentially make some mistakes, but those mistakes could be overlooked if you were not fighting a giant. And they only came about this way because Pepsi had money and all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't really point fingers at Mike at all. Again, it also depends on the judge who's sitting on a case. One judge may think of it differently, and that's why we have dissenters in most majority cases. So yeah, I wouldn't. I think Mike it was acceptable to me. I think it was acceptable.
So I think it's a clear distinguishment here. I think Jacoby really broke it down. You did too, man. Where it's like, okay, you can find dirt on your opposing counsel, on your opposing party, but how you use that dirt is the problem, right? So if you say, "Hey, Pepsi, I know I got dirt. Here's the dirt I have on you. If you don't settle, I'm going to put this dirt out to the public." That's extortion, right? But if you just put it out to the public,
it depends on the basis on which you are going to go against me if I put this out. However, it depends also, like you said, it depends on how to use it. The word I use while talking to Pepsi, hey, I got this on you. If you don't, I'm gonna put it out there. You see my mindset, right? And
Right.
but and if I say, hey, I've also found this right here, and then do you really want to go forward because this is what the jury is gonna look at? See, the tone is completely different, in the way we're using the same evidence,
Right.
right? So, and I guess that's where you see. I will in the beginning, I said advocacy is what I do. I advocate,
Right.
right? Wholeheartedly with passion. I
Right.
wouldn't point a finger at any attorney that is going out the way to speak for their clients.
Right.
Is this what it is?
Right.
Mhm.
Yes, and again, I want to make this clear to the public that we are giving away a free trademark legal service. So if you have a small business, make sure you shout out your small business, tag the website, share the live, and put why you need a trademark. And we're going to choose one small business owner to do that. Kia just clapped her hands. Thanks for participating, Kia. So go ahead, Trey Willie.
Uh, I just wanted to highlight uh, for everybody's consideration. Again, I like to plug our value. Um, this is a highlight of some of the complexities that your attorney has to consider in your case. It is 3D chess at all times. I mean, if you
Right.
guys watch this video, you'll see that it was a shift because New York filed the suit first in
Right.
an attempt to get venue in
Right.
New York, which is kind of like home court advantage.
Right.
And then you have to deal with this, and even Avenatti, how he
Right.
has this whole strategy of researching and then forcing people to talk about the boogeyman of the company
Right.
in the deposition. But then he has to, like Mambo said, just because the client gives us or we find the great evidence,
Right.
we still have to be so careful in how we present that
Right.
evidence and
Right.
in what angle we use.
Right.
I mean, it's an art form and it's
Right.
beautiful, but I would just like to highlight
Right.
uh, that this is what makes this podcast beautiful because I think a lot of people get some insight into all the thought and analysis that
Right.
goes into what a lot of people would consider a simple question.
Right.
And I want to add something to it. We discussed like a couple minutes ago with respect to the legality. There is a concept called accord and satisfaction, right? When you do not have what that which you promise to provide, but there is an alternative, you know, then we can agree that I should get that. The kid here wasn't looking just to get the jet, but he was more looking into the money because he look it look it calculate right. He said $30 million, X, Y, and Z. They could have just given him the $32 million, and then in lieu of giving him the jet. You know why? Because in the end, it becomes impracticable or literally impossible for him to get a jet. However, the value of the jet cannot be discounted from what the kid was looking for, right? So, and again, Mr. Whitley indicated here it was a summary judgment uh, uh, order or ruling, which means that at some point in the beginning, when the complaint is filed for our listener, when a complaint is filed, you are being sued, you respond, and then you bring about evidence either through interrogatory deposition, meaning that they ask you questions, and then the plaintiff goes and say, well, either party goes say, Your Honor, based on the facts that we have here, no reasonable jury, right? Even these facts seen in the light most favorable to the opposing party, no reasonable jury will. There is no issue as a matter of law, right? No genuine issue as a matter of law. So at that point, as Kobe indicated, there was no evidence and as far as deposition and stuff like that. However, should this case go through trial, the evidence about the country and whatever where people die for the other commercial would have come up, and a jury was likely to find for this guy here,
Right.
depending on how they were going to spin it, because we had a unilateral offer. There was consideration, performance, and that offer was accepted. Pepsi breached.
Right. I mean,
So
I think you're right. Likely the jury would have, probably would have found for John against Pepsi's. I want to highlight a comment. James Cameron said, "I didn't understand exactly understand the Coke versus Pepsi taste test throughout the documentary." I think that was just a way that they were just keeping the documentary interesting. And then Coke won at the end, so I think it was just kind of like a shot at Pepsi. James Camper also said, "In my humble opinion, this is a great case of the fish that was on the hook and got away." Yeah, yeah, it was a lot of It was a really good case, and it kind of blew out. And I think another part, everybody keeps talking about summary judgment, summary judgment. So summary judgment is one of those legal strategies where basically you can knock this case out before it goes to trial. And but there's rules to it, right? Everybody has to agree on the facts, or the judge had to say that, well, the facts aren't in dispute, and the judge has to say, well, okay, let me, on based off of law, I can get rid of this case. And they could have appealed it. I don't understand why they didn't. I mean, if you went all this way, I would have appealed it straight to the Supreme Court if I could have. I don't understand. You can appeal the summary judgment because that's the final judgment. So I don't understand why they didn't appeal it. Um, Mary Cameron said he really lose at the end when he fought for what he believed in until the end, which caused Pepsi to restructure how they advertise things going forward. I don't know. I mean, I based off my interpretation, I felt like he wanted a jet. You know, I don't think he was really trying to change the culture of Pepsi. I think it helped the public in the end, because now Pepsi's going to advertise better. But I don't think it really. I don't know if that's what if I told my client, hey, at least Pepsi's changing their culture. I don't know if he would have been satisfied with that. Attorney Whitley.
I think that's another good point. I get hit with and I'm sure all you guys do, right? Oh, I want to sue the city. This happened. I want to sue the city, right? And this person maybe, I don't know, slightly injured, no broken bones, might have a bruise,
Right.
and they're like, I want to sue the city. But then you have to explain everything that will go into that, all the resources that will go into that, and then also have to prepare them that after all of that money, all of that time, your outcome may be a situation like this.
Right.
And sometimes people need to be very aware that even though, like Mambo said, this could have been resolved with monetary compensation, everybody thought some kind of way money was going to how this was going to be resolved.
Right.
However, it seems like if there is a silver lining, which I believe there always is that this major company had to change their practices, like you described, and they still had to bow and adjust to this one kid that had this idea, right? But sometimes that's all you get, right? So it's kind of like Ben Crump. I mean, I like his strategy so much. It's like his strategy is, look, when it becomes to deaths at the hands of the police, right? I know the sentiment, the heart is lock up the officers. People feel that. But when you have become a cold, callous attorney because you had your heart ripped out several times over cases, right? And then you realize that money is going to change that police department, right? That I have to go get an astronomical verdict that upsets the mayor, that then has the mayor talk to the police chief that says we need to change how we do things because this is costing the city too much money now. Right? And it's separating the emotional side of the case from the practical side of the case. And I think this question in the movie highlights that sometimes the legal silver lining is just the change in policy.
And I want to add to that, Attorney Whitley, because that's from the time you start the case to the end of it, there's a lot of things that come in, and then part of what you indicated is the consideration of settling. And here you bring me back, you take me back to where the attorney, and I'm not saying anything about this attorney, and that's only for the video purpose. I don't know what he had personal conversation like with his client, but what he said on the video is they look at him, the kid is rejecting the money because he thinks $30 million is not X, Y, and Z. And they look at him and say, well, the kid wanted a jet. And that was his answer. And then you also mentioned the people coming down and saying they want to sue the city, but it's only a bruise, not even a fracture. And then you look at it, that's where I personally, although the case would have, prevailed, before a reasonable jury,
Potentially.
I look at it and say, look how much you spend. It's $700,000 to get here.
Right.
That $700,000, you have it still. We did not take it from you. We can refund it. You actually, he had a check at the time. Now, they offered him what? $2 million? $1
million.
1 million,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Now you look at it and start saying, you take the million, you walk away. Right? This is a contract, and this is not a negligence case, right? You did your part. They want to put the law of contract want to put the parties in the position they would have been if the contract would have been performed. However, we're facing something here. Now I'm switching the side, the legal impossibility, right? Or the legality of the contract. So as far as a court and satisfaction, why don't you get the $1 million? You work hard, you look like you're a go-getter. Get the $1 million, start off your something here, or say Pepsi. Okay, offer me an extra meal, okay, and then I'll walk away. In lieu of trying to take it to the whole legal process when you don't have enough, at that time at least, to face the giant, and I believe that negotiation becomes a very, very, very important key in it. And then sometimes the attorney have to tell the client, listen, this is what I do, and I've done this so many times. I'm going to ask you the question. The opposing party is going to ask you a trial. So if the client failed those questions right then and there, then you and the client are poking holes in the case itself, right? Kind of finding the weakness, because advocacy requires advocating against your own case first. Then you switch around and start finding the strength of your case. Because if you go with the strength of your case, you don't know how the other party is going to come at you. Right. To me, I think that the 1 million offer was okay to walk away with.
Okay, I was gonna get in that. So James Cameron said maybe he should have took the first offer. So if you don't know the story, they basically offered him $1 million to sell this. Everybody walk away. They go home, wash their hands. Right. I want to know to the public, and I want to know from Attorney Whitley, should he have taken that $1 million? Now, it's good. You can easily say stuff in retrospect. Oh, well, he lost and blah blah blah. To be honest, I don't know why he didn't appeal it. I really don't understand why he didn't appeal it. I think that he could have appealed this and he could have kept going, or he could have found ways to attack the summary judgment. I mean, he could have kept fighting this thing legally, right? It may have cost him a lot of money, but I think he definitely could have fought legally. Another thing to think about is that they were saying in the movie, like, okay, well, if he has to spend $700,000 plus all the time and energy and the work that he put into getting here, then you got to think about the fact that you got to subtract taxes from that. It really wasn't worth it at the end of the day, right? $1 million. So, and this is my opinion, okay? And different lawyers have different strategies. If this case came across my desk, the first thing I'm thinking about is you're gonna have to get a settlement, more likely than not, right? The jet is like a dream, and we can try to always shoot for the dream, but you more than likely than not, from a practical standpoint, you probably gonna end up getting a settlement out of it. Just from my opinion, right? Now, I want to read a comment from Mary Camper. Said his outcome was greater than the jet because he became a part of history, and his case has been taught throughout history and part of the education process today. That's great for us lawyers, right? But when my clients come to me, they want the money. So they're not asking to be a part of education or history. They want the results. You know what I mean? So, Attorney Whitley, I want to know your thoughts. Should he have taken the money? Should he have taken the settlement? And of course, again, I want to push small business owners. Make sure you promote your products and your comments, your services in the comments. Go ahead, Trey Whitley.
So yes, the last point from Ms. Camper, yeah, it gave me great clarity in her other point, and I understand that there is some value in that silver lining, right? Just being in the history books and stuff like that. But depends on the perspective of the client. That's what Attorney Camper was talking about. Sometimes the clients want the short term financial victory,
Right.
and not the long term spiritual or community victory.
Right.
But sometimes, I mean, that's how it shakes out.
Right.
Money or the spiritual victory.
Right.
They both have value, and if
Absolutely.
I diminish the value of one over the other in my explanation, I apologize. But it really comes down to client perspective.
Right.
And to even answer Justin's question, it's communicating with the client. All your clients are different, right? So some clients want to prove a point.
Right.
Some clients want to go all they have been hurt, and they don't care win, lose, or draw. I want to take them to the judge and let the judge decide.
Right.
Period. So it's pretty much. I would just have to present it to the client.
Gotcha.
Right, and then make sure the client knows is, hey, Emil, Emil, man, I understand, man. That's some money, man. You could do something. Like, it won't be split, so we have to consider that and things like that. But if my client said, hey, I want the jet, are you sure? Do you understand what you were saying?
Right.
Yes. Hey, my client wants the jet.
Right.
So it's pretty much at that point, it becomes about you have to counsel your client to the other side of their choice or the opposite direction or the alternative.
Right.
But at the same time, if they say go, and then you won't lose your license by going.
Right.
That's what you're paying me for. Now I'm gonna tell you, absolutely, the settlement is our best chance to get something straightforward. It won't take as much time. Bam, bam. Trial could be another year. It's a gamble. There's different exit ramps. It's a lot more dicey. If you want to go that route, we'll do it. So it just depends on what my client wants.
Okay, so Mary Cameron said that's a good strategy. Any gaps can lead to reasonable doubt. Absolutely. James Cameron said he really didn't care because his friend was the investor in the case. I mean, I guess true. That is true. When it's not your money, you like, hey, whatever, you know. I think that there's a lot of lessons that small business owners can learn from this. Okay. So many lessons, and I hope that you guys gather them throughout as we were talking. But what do you think is the big, giant lesson, okay, that small business owners can take away from this documentary series? Now, I'll start with you, Attorney Bonner.
You breaking up?
I'm breaking up. You can't hear me?
No.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Hold on 1 second. Say something.
Jacoby, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. I
Now
think
here, now
okay.
here.
Okay. I was saying, what is the lessons that small business owners can take from this docu series and just this whole court case?
Representation, representation of facts is key. And always think about how the other person is going to perceive what you say. And we say in business that perception is everything. You know, whether you be in a small business or whatever, perception is that okay. What I say now can be taken completely differently. You know, by another person, and like we always preached on this podcast, if you are in doubt, ask a question. You have plenty of lawyers at your fingertip, and you can call and ask a question for 15 minutes, and it should be okay. Um, Small business, again, if you end up in a situation where you are owed something in litigation, oh, don't always try to be stubbornly looking at the end result, but also look at out of consider all the factors that may actually spin around and they make you lose that end result and you lose what you are being offered today. Small business, pick your battles. You know, there's only some folks you can fight with, some you can negotiate with, some you can stay in court to make the point, even if I'm getting nothing in the end, but I make history, like Mary Kemper said. You know, so it's that small business. Just beware that you have folks out there who are in the business of trying to sue somebody and their mama. So when they come to your place,
Right.
be very careful to the business venue. Be careful how you treat them. Be careful what you present to them as danger. Be careful because anytime, anywhere, somebody can turn around and sue you for something. And that's the unfortunately the nature of business. That's how it goes. And small business,
Yeah.
Johnny Cochran said, the more money you have, the better the wheel of justice. It gets to the skin color too. You get it
Right.
up.
Right.
So yeah,
Right. Attorney Willie, what do you think? What are some big lessons that small business owners can take from this? I'm gonna read. Let me read Mary's comment, and then I'll let you know. Mary Cameron said, "Through my perspective, when he chose not to settle, he had made up in his mind to fight to the end, regardless of the outcome. He was aware that Pepsi legal team was much stronger than he was, but he stood for what he believed in with the hope of getting Jack, although he knew he may never get it." I think that's true. I think that's why he didn't settle, which brings me to my biggest point, which is like, why didn't you appeal it? Maybe his investor was like, all right, I'm done spending money on this. But I'm like, for me, it's like if you told me, hey, I don't want any money, I want this jet. Okay, well, you should use every legal option that's available to you. You know, he could have tried to get a class action. You know, he could have done a lot of different legal strategies until the feeling was just like, all right, fine, you I officially lost. You know what I mean? I don't think he did that. I really don't think. I think he just lost that one time and was like, well, it's over now. You know. So that's what my big issue. I really when it ended, I'm like, really? He didn't keep fighting? I don't understand why he didn't keep fighting. There's so many other legal options he could have had besides just giving up. But Attorney Willie, what are some big lessons that some of his owners can take from this?
So some of the things that I highlighted were one of the major things with any company is just misleading. That's a form of speech that's not protected. Misleading corporate speech. So just make sure that your marketing company works in tandem with your legal team, or that your legal team reviews your marketing, because sometimes the marketing company, they know all the psychological tricks to get people involved with your product, but that might not comply with some compliance on the legal side. So make sure that your marketing is always legal reviewed by some type of legal team or your attorney or what have you. I got a plug. I think that the documentary also highlighted solo and boutique law firms. These individuals, uh, I think they went to a big box, big law firm, and he said, "Look, I want to sue Pepsi over a jet." We really got laughed out that meeting. But I think solos and small and boutique law firms serve a niche because we will take cases that slip through the cracks. Otherwise, big law would most turn down a lot of my cases. I think, especially in the personal injury realm, I think my uncle could probably even attorney in Bonza can say he's probably got some cases from clients that were literally turned down from another law firm, and he was like, "I'll take it." And then even some of his colleagues at those big law firms, he was like, "Yeah, I just took this case," and they were like, "For what?" So I think that we serve that need. We serve the general public, people that don't often have a lot of money, a lot of resources, and we leverage that for them through the grace of God most of the time to leverage these fights against cities, other law firms, insurance companies, and so on and so forth.
Right.
And we're the only people in the legal field to do it. So I think,
Right.
and so just, and also this also lastly, and on a serious note, it just shows the importance of just having a baseline knowledge of contracts if you're going to be a small business owner.
Yeah.
Right? What's an offer? What's acceptance? What's mutual assent? Right? So when your lawyer is explaining things to you, you have more of a knowledge of the vernacular and nomenclature, so you can absorb it more at a deeper level. Because that's what small business is: it's relationships, and contracts guide those relationships. So I just think that's the last takeaway. Is, if you're in a small business, you should have a working knowledge of contract.
And again, be careful of what you put down, what you write down, or what you verbally say to the other person.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of lessons here. Attorney Willie kind of really brought out my main point, which is you need a freaking business attorney if you are planning on running a business. We're solo practitioners, and like you said, we do a lot of, we do a lot of things that a lot of big law firms wouldn't do, and we do it at a more, but we're not cheap, but we do it at a more affordable rate than what a lot of these big law firms are charging for a lot less personalized, customized, work where we're fighting really hard for our clients. Um, I think the one thing that we got to keep in mind for business owners is that make sure you check your marketing. And I think that a lot of times, as business owners, we're so aggressive. We're trying to get customers in the door, and I understand that feeling. And we're ready to advertise free socks and free whatever and whatever. We're trying to get people to come in, and you can't be too hasty, right? So what they could have had was disclaimers. They could have had, they could have had disclaimers. They could have had a lot of different things they could have done to protect themselves, right? They could have had something in writing, say, yeah, the terms of these points are under the conditions of X, Y, and Z, and blah 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 blah, and they could have had they could have had a lot of different legal things in place to cover themselves. Pepsi could have, right? But they're a big giant company. They're not expecting people to, to take this serious and or even to achieve the goal. Maybe I think some people were hoping that people took this serious, but I don't think they were expecting people to achieve the actual goal, right? And so, even though they weren't expecting to achieve the goal, you got to have legal protections in place to protect yourself from future things that will happen. I guarantee you that because of this, they've made some changes, right, in their legal system and their policies to protect themselves, right? And a business owner. So I think this brings out two things that I really want to point out. There's transactional business attorneys, and then there's litigation business attorneys, right? And transactional business attorneys are supposed to, their job is to prevent you from going to court or to make sure that you are fully protected, or that if you have to go to court, that the advantage is on you, right? Not the other party. So transactional attorneys focus on, your contract. They focus on just making sure your structure is correct, make sure everything's up to date, right? The litigation side of the attorney, they are focused on how to fight, how to fight you and how to fight for you, how to advocate through the legal system, right? And you kind of need both, right? And my firm does that. We all do it. We basically do both. We do transactional work and we do litigation work. But you need both, right? You need both perspectives because no matter how much you try to prevent, you can't prevent everything. But and then as far as litigation goes, you don't want to always be in court, right? You want to make sure that you protect yourself. So my point is, long story short, is that you need a business attorney and you need someone who understands, all these different strategies, to really make sure that your business is legally protected. You need to make sure that your advertisement is legally sound. So that's why it's good to have an ongoing attorney to work with you on certain issues. We had a couple of comments. James Camper said, to the point of attorney Jacoby, three chess in this game. You have the winner, the loser, or the draw. You always have to play the game to win. Absolutely. Absolutely. We have one business owner who shouted out her business, Nicole Johnson. Hello, Nicole Johnson of NCJ. I am the Map LLC. Very interested in the subject matter. Thank you, Nicole, for listening. Thanks for shouting out your business. And then James Camper with KJ Productions. So we're actually up to a close. And I said that, if a business owner shout out their small business, that I was going to give away a free legal trademark service as long as they paid for the filing fees. And so we had two people here who actually shout out their business. And so I want to just grant it to both of them. Now we got three coming in at the late. So no, but I'm going to acknowledge the first two who came through. We're gonna go for Nicole. So Nicole, you're the winner. I'm gonna give you a free trademark legal service, and as long as you pay for the fees and everything, we're gonna talk. And then James Camper with KJ Productions. Yeah, definitely reach out to me, and we can help you with the trademark if that's something you're interested in. And then for all the listeners, I'm gonna run a special from now until the end of the year. If you watch this podcast later, you're going to get a 10% discount on the trademark service. So, as a part of just celebrating small businesses, we want to make sure that your brand is protected. So, in case you got to go to court, or in case your court's on the news, you can say that you have your trademark protected. So, feel free to reach out to me. I know you guys know my contact. But justincapillaw.com, feel free to reach out to me. So thank you so much for everybody who listened, who participated. By December, hopefully we'll be back with another episode. Also in the comments, if there is something that you would love for us to cover on Netflix or a book or whatever, some type of case you want us to cover, put in the comments questions about your business. Hey, I would love to talk about copyright. I would love to talk about contracts. Put that in the comments when it's over with, and we'll read through the comments and we'll come up with things that we want to talk about. But that's all I have. Thank you so much for everybody listening again. It's a Small Business Saturday. Make sure you go out, support the small businesses, support small businesses. Our business owners are the ones who actually run this economy. Attorney Ali Banza, your 30-second closing. Anything you want to say to the public?
Yeah.
30 seconds.
30 seconds?
29 seconds.
29. Well, I want to take the time to wish you all happy holidays with your family, and take time to appreciate and love the one you have, and love them dearly. And because although tomorrow is not promised for people of faith, but you never know, right? And you all be great, celebrate, enjoy. Most importantly, thank God for having provided to you what you have today. And keep on praying and keep your faith high that He will provide more tomorrow. And as long as you're serving Him right.
Thank you for that sermon there. We appreciate it. Where can they find you, Attorney Bonza?
I can be found in DuPage County, in Illinois, 872-304-0384, Banza Law, and that's who I am.
Okay, thanks so much, Attorney Bonza. Attorney Whitley, closing remarks as we head out.
Yes, everybody, happy holidays. We made it to the end of the year. Let's stay vigilant. Let's stay smart. Let's stay safe. Let's stay loved up. So we get into the new year and we just keep going. So I just want to thank everybody that was a part of this today and has been part of this throughout the year. I think we did a small business Saturdays before. So it looks like we've been doing this probably at least a year.
Yeah, definitely a year. This is our second time doing
Yeah, yeah. So my memory ain't that bad.
it.
But so yeah, I'm thankful for that. But yeah, everybody keep growing your business. Like Justin said, small businesses are the backbone of America. Do not let them fool you. And yeah, thanks to everyone. Everyone keep soaking up the knowledge and learning and being great. So I'm 202-499-2403. I'm attorney Jacoby Whitley, the law office of Jacoby K. Whitley, and we are in DC.
Okay, thanks so much, Attorney Willie. And I got one more comment I want to address. James Cameron said, "Great show. Let's talk about Kanye West next time." So we can talk about
Let's do it.
we can talk about Yay, and we can talk about the Adidas deal and trademarking and all that. It's a lot of good stuff there. So yeah, I'm attorney Justin Camper. You can find me at justincamperlaw.com. My number is 219-281-6166. Small business attorney located in Northwest Indiana. Great to have you guys. Look forward to seeing you for the next episode. And remember to stay legal.